everyone, and thanks for joining me on another of my videos. Today has been a sunrise shoot. I arrived here pretty much just as the sun was rising, and I've been waiting until it got high enough to clear some hills just behind me here, so it would cast some wonderful golden light on my foreground. So this is very much something that I've planned. I think planning shoots such as this is incredibly important. You don't want to arrive at sunrise or indeed around sunset and be scrambling around looking for a composition. That is absolutely fine if you're just out to look for things casually, but if you're really keen to get a good image and you do that, you could end up disappointed. So planning really is key. So I've came here early, got set up. I already had the shot planned in mind, and I just wanted some golden light on my foreground. Now I've actually captured this image before, sort of mid-morning, a few weeks ago when the ground had some really nice frost on it, so I'll show you that image. But I think it's always very important to keep returning to a location, trying different ideas. I fancied seeing how this would look with some nice golden light coming in across the scene from left to right, and I think it works quite nicely. I'm always keeping an eye on the clouds that are blowing past in the distance here. I think that's key to making the composition work as well. It's really nice to get some clouds just in the correct position to enhance the scene. We've got some birds flying around. It's lovely to be out this early in the morning. I can also just see the moon as well above some of the trees over here, so that will also feature in my image. So I'm quite pleased with it, and it's been fantastic just to watch the light coming across the scene from left to right here. So I'm going to just keep monitoring the scene, keep checking the position of the clouds. There's some nice ones just blowing in from my right at the moment, and I'm going to take a few more images and then I'll talk a bit more about the composition. So I'm happy now that I've captured a few nice images of this scene. Ideally, being fussy like all photographers are, I may have liked to have the frost still on the ground that I captured the other week when I was here, but there's still time. I may return and get that, but I think I'm going to be pretty happy with the image as it is today. So now that I've captured a few, I'll talk you through the composition and how I see it. And it's important to point out that composition is very much subjective. It's all what looks good to your eye. There's no rights, there's no wrongs. What I like may not be liked by someone else, and that's absolutely fine. It's all about taking images that look good to your own eyes. I think that's really important in landscape photography, and indeed in all photography, unless you're shooting for a client, of course. Then it needs to look good to them. So there's a few things that's been vital for me to get right in this scene, at least in my opinion, and there's a few ways that I could have got this image wrong. The first key thing, as I talked about earlier, was the planning. Most of the effort into this end image, which you'll see at the end of the video, has been in the planning. The actual shoot won't last too long compared to all of that, because I wanted to capture the scene in golden hour, and of course that doesn't last too long. So regarding the composition, there's a few things that stood out to me that I liked about this scene. We've got a subtle pathway almost, or a line leading through the scene in front of me here. We've got a really nice tree on the left, lots of character, very unusual shape. Similar just beyond it, we've got more of those types of trees. Then we've got the hill in the distance, and I talked about wanting some clouds in the shot as well. And we've got quite a nice tall prominent tree in line with the right hand half of that hill. Then over at the right we've got some tall trees just to provide an end to my image over at the right hand side. So I obviously wanted the golden light coming across the scene, and we've got some interesting long grasses as well on the ground, so I've been taking those into account when I've been moving across, trying to get the shot framed up correctly. So I think I also mentioned earlier we had the moon up at the top left hand side of the image as well, which just adds a little something else. So I'm quite pleased with it overall. Where I think I could have went wrong with this image, as you could do in all images, is get the composition wrong in terms of balance. Now if we just walk about in this scene, the first thing I wanted to do was get the camera at the correct height, just to reveal enough of this line leading you into the scene. But if I move too far this way, and it may be hard to see in the video camera because it's a different focal length from what I was using to take the actual shot, but if I move too far this way, I feel the image gets too heavy, too weighted on the right hand side. There's just too much going on. So I've had to move back this way a little bit, probably roughly this area, although it will look different on this camera, just to get things nicely lined up, give all the trees some clearance, but also try and get the weight and balance of the image correct. I think that has been key. So some people may have been tempted just to position that hill right in the center of the image, and had all the other elements aligned correctly, that would have been fine. But doing that in this case, I think would have got the balance wrong. It would have just made the image too heavy on one side. So I've positioned it the way it looks good to me, but that's not to say it's right. It's completely subjective. Someone else taking the image may have viewed the scene totally differently, and that's fine. But that's how I have seen the shot this morning anyway, and I'll show you the image just to end this video. But I hope you found it enjoyable and interesting, and maybe picked up a few things that's useful to your own photography perhaps. But it's been a fantastic morning. It's always really nice to be out early, see the world come alive and experience some nice light. You can of course shoot throughout the entire day, but for this scene I did want the golden hour light, and I'm glad I've been able to capture that today. So as always, thank you so much for your time. I really hope you've enjoyed it. I do appreciate you watching, and I'll see you in my next video hopefully.